Welcome everybody to a new episode of Running with the Devil. This is episode 4, and we're finishing up I'm finishing up the last bit of the first run on Daredevil by Frank Miller. We are Brandon-less this week because apparently he had a very exhausting day at the James Tynion signing. So here I am. The show must go on, and very excited to finish up this run of Daredevil by Frank Miller. We will be in episode 5 on Brandon's channel, be going and discussing Born Again and possibly Man Without Fear, which I believe were basically the last of the Frank Miller run involving Old Hornhead. Just a little bit of shopkeeping also. For those that don't know, I am no longer part of Tag Team Thursday. Life just got too rough for me with trying to keep a schedule and my hours kind of being all over the place. So for easily the next 3 months, I am no longer part of it. You can still catch Brandon there and a bunch of other great people. Coming up soon, I will have with Carlito, Celluloid, and Scotch our 3rd episode, and we're doing Alita Battle Angel and discussing what went wrong and why this movie has such a great second life on streaming and physical media, and kind of like a cult following now of it. There's tons of movies that have had that happen as well, where they didn't do well in theaters and then got a second life on home video. And then also for the Ink Panels Graphic Novel Book Club, we're doing Genderqueer. That is on Saturday the 26th at 9:30 p.m. Kind of excited to talk about this. This was Jennifer's pick for Pride Month, so we will be digging into that. Should be a good episode. So, on to Frank Miller and Daredevil. This takes place... Oh boy. Come on, Kindle. Okay. So this is taking place right after the death of Elektra, and we go into issue 183. This one is co-written by Roger McKenzie, which in the first volume of the Frank Miller, he co-wrote a lot of them, and those were the issues that weren't the best. That's in my opinion for the most part. So this issue in particular is about people on PCP and drugs in the street, and we have the Punisher finally pops up, and we start getting into the interactions between Punisher and Daredevil. They really don't like each other. Their methods don't gel. Both vigilantes, but one uses a gun. Although at this point, Frank's also carrying tranq bullets, which he later on shoots Daredevil with. We get the first meeting between them. A kid is accused of killing a drug dealer, and he never actually pulled the trigger, and Daredevil is trying to show that he is innocent as Matt Murdock and as Daredevil. I'm not going to lie, this issue felt like filler to me. I mean, yes, it was probably Denny O'Neil going, hey, this drug is in the streets. We got to talk about this. The writing is not the best. There are some great interactions between Frank and Daredevil. The end of the issue, Matt proposes to Heather Glenn. Heather Glenn is his on-again, off-again girlfriend throughout this run. Matt's terrible to her. She's not exactly the greatest character. The 184 has somewhat of an iconic cover, because, of course, Daredevil wouldn't be carrying a gun, although random times he will hold a gun in his hand. The cover gained like this weird second iconic life, and it was sought after for quite a while. And at this point, the drug dealer is let off, and we find out it's because he had a pacemaker. It stopped his heart from skipping when he was lying. More people going nuts on PCP. Again, I'm not a huge fan of this issue, or these issues. I felt they're rather clumsily done to discuss a message. unfortunately, they're just not the best. It ends with Heather looking up this company that the company Glen Industries has invested in, and they make explosives. So she starts panicking. Issue 185. This is Heather getting foggy with her to try and find out what's going on with her company. And Daredevil's kind of just in the periphery, kind of busting into stuff. And Kingpin's involved. Again, not a great issue. And like a lot of this, like this particular issues that we're going into tonight, I did not think were the best. They're all like getting you set up for a big showdown, which we'll get to. The ship explodes. Matt is exposed to radioactive material again. But this issue in particular was a very foggy issue. Every now and again you get one of those, and yeah, you deal with it. It's fine. Just it's foggy. Like no one's looking for him. Issue 186. This one in particular, Klaus Janson is penciling, and Miller mostly scripts, and he lists himself as scripter and storyteller. Kind of makes me think he did layouts. And in this, Heather's hair magically turns blonde in this edition. Stiltman is in it. He gets his suit stolen from him by Turk. Turk will never ever leave these Miller runs. Like he will consistently keep popping up everywhere. Matt's very much involving himself in Heather's business issues, but he's finding everything louder now. Smells everything. The radiation has affected him and making his senses like go off the charts. And they do a great job with showing how it's escalating, with the words just getting bigger and bigger. Good job by the letterer and in general with just the storytelling with it. Don't notice a big drop off from Miller to Janson, so I don't know how much of the penciling Janson did. I did find it interesting. There is a lot more Heather. Turk takes the Stiltman suit, and he said that he's going to become the new assassin for Kingpin. And he is on the stilts. He's trying to get the district attorney Maxine Lavender, and Turk can't even do this right, even with an armor suit. Turk sucks. He sucks at everything. He's a schmo. For some reason, though, like Frank Miller loves this character and continues with him. Turk falls and basically knocks himself out. Hey, what Spider like? How you doing? The issue it stops with Turk crashing. It just I hate filler issues. There's nothing I hate more than filler issues. Pardon me for 1 minute. Sorry, guys. I'm very professional with this. Okay, sorry. Issue 187, I do love the use of the dead space here, where it's just the white and then him just alone. It's the nice use of negative space that I do adore. And again, Miller always was very good using space. And then we go right to his agony, with the words and just every sound attacking him. I love the layout of that. I'm always good with creative use of your space and your pages. And I know, like, Brandon and I talked forever about how great Miller was in how he uses the space in the page. This issue is called Overkill. Again, Klaus Janson penciling, inking, and coloring. And this one, we get Natasha back, and we use a lot of the shadows with her that I kind of dig. And she's fighting ninjas. And it's the first time she, I think, or unless it was Marvel Fanfare, where she was using the gray bodysuit, and she had cut her hair short, and she was basically a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. at this point. The hand pop up, which frequently during Miller's run they come in, and Natasha fights them, and we bring back Stick, and the hand is hunting him, and he is gathering his group of ninjas back together. His side, Stick's anti-hand group, is called the Chaste, and we get some very good fight choreography here with Stick going against the hand. And in Natasha's part, they were going to steal Karigi, the ninja who was almost like unkillable that went against Elektra in the last episode we were talking about. And we have another moment of Matt's senses being attacked, where he's trying to cross the street in Manhattan or Hell's Kitchen. I'm not quite sure where. But again, lovely use of the space, showing it. And because his senses are being overwhelmed, he's easily to be taken. He's getting attacked. Gets basically the shit beaten out of him. And we go to Nick, I almost said Nick Cage, Nick Fury, and he's finding out that the hand had poisoned Natasha, and it's given her like a high level of cancer. And Matt goes to Josie's bar to find out information. And another thing with the bar and his senses, where she's like waiting for a window to get broken, which always happened at Josie's. Stick is waiting at Matt's apartment. He's talking to his group of ninjas, and they're like, we don't want this adventurer. He's sloppy. He's passionate. We don't need that. And Matt comes into his apartment, falls down. On another page, the hand are resurrecting Karigi. It's basically giving up your life essence to him and reincarnating him. And he comes back to life, and then we get one of my favorite covers, which I used on the thumb, of Black Widow and Daredevil. And a page I do not like right up front. I thought that was kind of a Bobo-looking Natasha. Just my opinion. I didn't think it was the greatest. But Natasha is beating people for information and kind of falling apart. She is looking for Matt now. And a lot of this episode, Matt is in a deprivation tank. And Stick is talking to him telepathically through it. And he tells Matt the tale of how Elektra had actually gone to join the Chaste, but she was unclean, too emotional. And through that, he kicked her out of the Chaste, and she went and joined the Hand, trying to infiltrate them. And in that training, she ended up killing her master. They had captured him, and it was in a well and made them fight, and she stabbed him and killed him. We have a throwdown with the Chaste and the Hand and Karigi, and each of the Chaste kind of have their own little thing. There's a guy who called Claw, and he has the ninja claws. There is, I believe it's Shaft, and of course he has bow and arrow. And then Stone, who, as long as he knows an attack is coming, he's invulnerable to the attacks. There is a moment where he takes ninja stars into his chest. And this is kind of art you would have seen in like 300 or Ronin. for the cover, and I really dig the use of that. And if you haven't read Ronin by Frank Miller, I think it was his first DC work, and it was rather exceptional. Natasha ends up being healed, and they basically use a ninja technique to kind of move life essence to heal her. And the hand attack Matt's apartment, and it's just an onslaught on it. It's a ninja throwdown of all ninja throwdowns. And as they're just being an onslaught, Stick and I believe it's Shaft, they join hands and start stealing the life essences of the ninjas in the room. And it basically causes Shaft and Stick, their bodies can't contain all of the essence, and they explode. That is what's left of Stick and Shaft. Stone is the only one left. And Foggy, after this, he decides that he doesn't think Matt and Heather should be together, and he asks Natasha how good she is at forgery. She leaves notes, one for Heather, one for Matt, saying, I can't do this anymore. Leave me. You can't be in my life. One for each of them. And we now have the resurrection episode or issue of this, where they are getting the body back of Elektra, and the Hand are trying to resurrect her. And they want to make her basically the new Karigi, and they're trying the exchange of life forces for her. Daredevil goes to Kingpin looking for basically where the Hand are at, and they do kind of an exchange of information. The Kingpin ends up sending his men to help Daredevil. As this resurrection process is going, the ninjas die. She had a heartbeat for a minute, but didn't. Stone's basically pissed off at Matt because he runs off in the middle of the fight and not helping him, because Daredevil's trying to now put his life essence into Elektra, and he sucks at it. But what he does manage to do is, as we find out at the end here, Stone is ready to cut her head off to make sure that they can't bring her back. And as he has his sword ready, he touches her head and realizes she's been cleansed. Murdoch somehow, in his futile attempt to revive her, somehow purged her. And he's like, she is clean. I am weary. And Daredevil and Kingpin have a discussion in the meantime. And he's like, well, you are a common enemy against whom the other people need protection I can provide. He basically says that him and Daredevil are the power in the city. We need each other. We are partners. They run back into the church. It's on fire. Elektra's body's gone, and Stone's ninja gi, I guess it's called that, is empty. It's gone. He's gone. And then we kind of go back to the beginning of the issue, where it was Elektra's story, climbing the unclimbable wall. And more climbing. And we have Elektra in her white chaste uniform. And Elektra lives. And we eventually will get the Bill Sienkiewicz Elektra Assassin series, which, if you have not read, is fantastic. And Bill Sienkiewicz is such a great artist. Issue 191. This is one of those weird Daredevil gun books where it is him with, before I get to that, it's Frank Miller writing and penciling and Terry Austin inking him. Terry Austin inked John Byrne and many, many more. Very famous inker. And Daredevil now is in a hospital room. And as we saw a couple of issues earlier, Bullseye has been a paraplegic basically after the fall he took. And he's literally just sitting in a hospital bed, and Daredevil is playing Russian roulette. Very, very dark issue. And he keeps putting the gun back and forth between them. And he's like, I hope you don't mind me doing the honor for you like this, like that, Bullseye. It's just that I don't want you to miss out on all the fun. And you, well, why be polite? You're paralyzed, can't move a muscle in your whole body, can't even talk. And that's too bad, yeah? Too bad I did it for you. Of course, in a way, you did worse to me. Yes, much worse. You murdered Elektra, the woman I loved. And there's a story about... hold on, let me get to this. Definitely gore. There was some great Elektra, and that one was great. And the Elektra Assassin, I think there was a second one, Elektra Lives, also, that Sienkiewicz did after the fact. This story with the Russian roulette, there is a story about a kid who worships Daredevil, and he's like watching him and Bullseye fight on TV, and it's kind of the crux of this story. The kid's dad is not a great guy for the most part, and his son ends up catching his dad basically holding somebody up, and it causes this crazy moment. And this is like after Daredevil's going around the city with the kid on his shoulders, going from building to building. And the kid's like, you're my hero. Yeah, you're excellent. When somebody gets in your way, you give it to them. Pow. Nobody tells you what to do. You're free. And Matt's having a reaction to it. And the Russian roulette goes on, and Matt's like, that's 4 out of 6, Bullseye. We're both lucky so far. You know what Chucky said? What Chucky said bothered me, but not as much as it should have. I should have gotten him professional help. Fact is, I was charmed, not to mention thrilled to find myself admired. So thrilled, I didn't look too closely at what I was being admired for. And the last thing I should have done, the very last, was to encourage Chucky's fantasy that I found out when I went to question the plaintiff in the Jerkins case. And we have a very, very dark scene with Daredevil putting the gun to under his chin. Click. That's 5. Lucky me. Guess this is it, Bullseye. But I'd better finish my story first. And here the kid sees his dad. And he goes, Papa, what? He goes, you go on home, boy. Do what your papa says and go on home. He's like, what are you going to do, Jurgens? Shoot your own child? He's like, I'll shoot you. And then Daredevil basically beats the kid's dad down on the ground, and the kid just starts looking at him, and it just breaks the kid, basically. And the kid's watching TV again, and he's watching the Bullseye Daredevil fight, and he just keeps repeating, Papa's bad, or Daredevil wouldn't have hit him. And if Papa's bad, so am I, so am I. And Chucky's head, it keeps going on. He pulls a gun out later on, and he shoots a kid. He found one of his dad's guns. And then he says, which raises the question, when Chucky pulled the trigger, was he his father, or was he you, Bullseye, or was he me? The child Chucky shot survived, by the way. So did Chucky after a fashion. We won't really know how Chucky is until he starts talking again. So I keep asking myself again and again, what made Chucky like he was? What am I giving people by running around in tights and punching crooks? What am I showing them? Am I showing them that good wins out, that crime does not pay, that the cavalry is always on its way? Or am I showing them that any idiot with fists for brains can get this way, or can get his way if he's fast enough and strong enough and mean enough? Am I fighting violence or teaching it? Am I to blame at all? Maybe all the blame rests with creatures like you and Jurgens, perhaps. If Chucky had a father like mine, there was a man Bullseye, he made his son proud. If not for him, there would have never been a Daredevil. You see the amplified senses that I had for years before I became Daredevil, and the fighting skills, the acrobatics, they're just tools, but the man, he had to be inspired. And then we get to the final scene. He's holding it. Click. He never loaded the gun. It was just so he could have this dialogue. And that ends Frank Miller's first run on the book. Again, there were issues that were filler overall with the book, especially the ones like where he had the guest writers. And in the preamble to this book, there's Klaus Janson wrote about it, and he talked about how him and Frank were trying to fit in the Marvel method, so to say, and find their way around it, and were finding themselves on the book, and how they never really got to that point until 168, and how the book had been bi-monthly up till issue 180. And with Denny O'Neil as the editor, he brought a lot of what was going on into the news and probably had influence on some of it. And yesterday was the anniversary, or actually it might be today, the anniversary of Denny O'Neil's passing. And I thought I would just share this quote because it's one of my favorite quotes by him. "Make me laugh, make me cry. Tell me my place in the world. Lift me out of my skin and place me in another. Show me places I have never visited and carry me to the ends of time and space. Give my demons names and help me to confront them. Demonstrate for me possibilities I've never thought of and present me with heroes who will give me courage and hope. Ease my sorrows and increase my joy. Teach me compassion. Entertain and enchant and enlighten me. Tell me a story." So Gore, onto that, I think because Natasha, they've already always portrayed her as already being emotionally scarred, dealing with what she did as a spy and what she did as part of the Russian espionage. So I think she always carried baggage. So maybe that's why she understood Matt more than most. I just think, though, certain writers write her very carefree, and I feel like Miller wrote her as a bit more carefree than she actually was. But I also know, like, oh God, I forget what writer it was. They wrote her very tortured. I know currently Kelly Thompson writes her very tortured. Yeah, Denny O'Neil was one of those writers that he used to be a newsman, and he also dealt with his own demons. He fought alcoholism for a good amount of time. But him and Neil Adams on the Green Arrow, Green Lantern series were tackling so many topical issues going on in the world. Some still going on. The most famous one was with a black man going up to Green Lantern and say, "You've helped the blue skins, the red skins, even all kinds of colored skins we've never seen before. But what have you ever done for the black man? You've never done anything for us." And it was such a powerfully drawn page. And I know Denny O'Neil talked about how if he could just get one smart kid to understand what they were trying to say and make them understand, then he thought that he did his job. Ed Brubaker, I don't want to say he's underrated, but he's so good at tackling stuff. And I recommend the book he did with Sean Phillips, Pulp. It's an original graphic novel. It is one of the best OGNs ever. It was my book of the year, especially for how it came out during the pandemic with the lockdown. Pulp presented itself as a whole other story, and then once you read it and find out it's about skinheads and Nazi groups, it's insane. It was so well written, and what it was about and what it presented on the cover were two separate things. Just unbelievably fantastic. Go buy that if you haven't read it, or if you're wanting to check out Ed Brubaker. There is a huge body of work to check out by him. Of course, Winter Soldier is great, but Sleeper, Criminal, there's so much good stuff out there by him. The last parts of this Frank Miller trade that I got was What If number 28. And it's what if Matt Murdock joined S.H.I.E.L.D. I hated this issue. I hated it. I like what if stories. I just didn't think this was the best, especially one of the big twists is that Matt Murdock's dad is there at the end. I hated it. What if number 35 was what if Elektra had lived? And in this one, it was Bullseye getting killed. And Matt and her end up going and living on the islands. And it's just Uatu talking to him at the gravestone. It was fine, but I'm not a fan of it. And then Bizarre Adventures number 28. That also is part of this trade, which these Frank Miller Visionaries, for some reason, the third book is insanely expensive. I had to buy it through Amazon. Not Amazon. Well, I guess it's technically Amazon. Through Kindle, because it was $20. The actual physical copies were as high as $80. But this was a solo Elektra story in black and white, which really, it goes well, very well. But that is it for the first run of Daredevil that Frank Miller did. I know Frank Miller is one of those guys you either hate or love. He has done and said some stuff in the past that I can't make excuses for. He's made some bad decisions. He has had problems in his life that probably accentuated a lot of those problems. But it comes down to that you have to kind of separate the man from the work. And this work that came out during the 80s, I'm not going to say it changed things, but it was so new and fresh at the time that it made people stop in their tracks and be like, holy shit, this guy, he's doing things differently. And he was one of the first pencilers that they actually let write, which Marvel did not allow. Not one bit. Although technically, Steve Ditko apparently wrote a ton of issues. He just basically was given a framework by Stan and said, I'll put the words in later. So it comes down to, does the art tell the story or does the writer tell the story? And you can make that argument for hours. I think Matt was a member of the Avengers for a minute. But he's a pain in the ass. Daredevil Matt Murdock is a pain in the ass character because he is so opinionated, and it goes down to what Frank said about what makes Daredevil fascinating. Not only is he Catholic, but he's a vigilante and a lawyer. So you have this great inner warfare going in with him of, his Catholic duty versus I'm defending the law, but I'm also breaking the law. So the next episode, we will be going through one of the. I think when you talk about Daredevil, Born Again is one of the greatest deconstructions of a character. We're going to be doing Born Again, and I think The Man Without Fear, which were the very last Frank Miller Daredevil stuff. Born Again has Mazzucchelli as the artist with Frank writing, and it's such a deconstruction of Matt. It's taking him down to ground zero. It's taking a classic character like Karen Page and just dirtying her up as the 80s would do, making her a porn star, hooked on smack, selling the identity of Matt Murdock and the takedown of Matt Murdock, and just basically taking him down to just nothing, and then him building himself up. And then Man Without Fear, it's the story of Matt becoming Daredevil. Some of it stolen by the Netflix series with the black outfit and the scarf. And the thing that I will, when we talk about it, will bump into repeatedly is, good God, John Romita Jr.'s art. There are some parts of it that can look great, and then there's parts where you're just, ugh. And I respect John Romita Jr. Like, his style just isn't for everyone, but there's books that I've loved it, and then there's books that it just hasn't worked for me. 100%. And that's the weird thing, that Daredevil is such a complicated character. It might be why he gravitated to Batman, because Batman is a very complicated character, but I feel like Matt Murdock is a way more complicated character. And really, like, Zdarsky, I feel, has gotten in touch with the character of Matt more than anything else lately. I've struggled, so I'd love to know which issues that you like. A little bit more there on that. Like, what have you struggled with in particular? Oh, John Romita Jr. just wasn't enjoyable for me in his late 200 run in Daredevil. For Romita Jr., I actually kind of liked his X-Men run with Claremont. Kick-Ass, his art worked. There's not a whole lot. I noticed the inking style, or whoever his inker is now, like, it's changed quite a bit. There was another book Romita did. Oh, I didn't find Romita's art that terrible on the Superman Year One. Like, it was tolerable. I think that might be an insult too, saying someone's art was tolerable. But I didn't hate it. I gotta really think, because I'd say Romita on Kick-Ass was probably, like, it was like he was able to be his own person and not fit into another art style, and that could also be a problem. The Amazing Spider-Man run with Straczynski, also, I felt that Romita Jr.'s art wasn't horrible. His faces, though, all look the same. Like, all look the same. But I would check out that Amazing Spider-Man run with Straczynski. It was a great read, and as the artist changed, I think Romita Jr. was on it. Oh yeah, Romita Jr. was on Spider-Man Pre-Wedding also. Paul Smith, actually, let me highlight this. Paul Smith had a very underrated run on X-Men. I don't think he got the respect he deserved. Like, he was actually really good. And I got to see a bunch of his work on B stories in classic X-Men. Yeah, Romita Jr. did the when Peter proposed, because that was with the Spider Slayer. Oh boy, I'm going back in the time machine now, trying to remember this stuff. Oh yeah, Paul Smith. Again, like I don't think he gets the respect he deserves. There's a couple of artists like that. There are guys that like did some fill-in issues and you didn't really see again. And I think like I've seen people shit on Barry Windsor Smith too. Like I saw people complaining about his art on the Weapon X book, and I was flummoxed by it. Barry Windsor Smith is so good. Like, yeah, his art style is different. It's not for everybody. And when I had Steve Orlando on the show with Jennifer and Gambit, he talked about there's some artists that it takes a long time for people to catch up on. One of them in particular, he said that people haven't caught up on now is Tradmore, where Tradmore has such like a kinetic style to him. And just now, like, people are starting to appreciate him. Oh. I forgot about John Romita Jr.'s run on Thor. Yes, actually, that it worked on Thor. But I also think there's characters that I think his art is more prone to, like, work with. X-Men 205, that is the Lady Deathstrike issue. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. That cover is so good. Yes. Well, thank you for coming to X-Men Talk. But no, we had some dead air on this, so I think it's a good time to have a town hall talk on comics because I love it. Throw out some artists that you guys think are kind of underappreciated or slept on, because there's a couple of guys like Paul Neary, I think is like 100% slept on. I don't think the dearly departed Mike Ringo is talked about enough. Mike Ringo, like his cartoony art he was so good. His Spider-Man and then his Flash stuff was so fucking good. Howard Porter, I think, is like underrated as fuck. His work with Grant Morrison on Justice League was so good, and then his just recent Flash run with Joshua Williamson. I didn't see enough people talking about Howard Porter's art on that. I still need to read Monsters. That is on my list. I know Jen said that she was kind of struggling with it because that book is gigantic. I think I've got it handy. So, this is probably one of my all-time favorite books. I know, like, we've beaten the shit out of the Squadron Supreme and the recent Jason Aaron and Heroes Reborn, but this book by Mark Grunwald, it had Paul Neary, John Buscema. I really feel if Watchmen hadn't come out the same year, this book would be looked at much differently. I love this book. It is a great deconstruction. I mean, yes, it's analogs of DC heroes, but there's just something about this book that has always like hit me in a weird spot. And like we're at a point too where I think that people forget how good George Perez was. George Perez's Wonder Woman is one of the greatest like works of art. It's just fantastic, and I don't feel enough people really talk about it enough. Well, I think we're near an ending point for this. I've droned on enough. Thank you, everybody who came on and watched me ramble for close to an hour. Did my best solo. I know like we'd gotten into a trend of Brandon and I bouncing back and forth. But again, things came up. Next episode will be on his channel, and we will be doing Born Again, and I think Man Without Fear, and I believe we have 2 guests coming on for it. So join us there for that, and you can find Brandon on his channel. On Thursday, he has Tag Team Thursday with the rest of the great guys on there. He has, I think, a Wednesday show he's doing with Chamara Cinema. He's always got reviews going. Check out his Instagram. He's always updating on there. I know he has Alex Sinclair coming up on the 19th. And of course, I have Celluloid and Cinema coming up. And Carlito and I will be talking about Alita Battle Angel, each bringing one movie to discuss that we think people might be sleeping on. Alita Battle Angel might be a long episode because there's so many great things about that. And there's so many things marketing-wise that they fucked up. And also the journey of James Cameron getting the rights to it and waiting and sitting on it for the technology to catch up. Also, like, one of those great things. And then we are reviewing Genderqueer. We're discussing it on Ink Panel's Graphic Novel Book Club. And that is Jennifer's pick for Pride Month. And it is also the two-year anniversary of the Ink Panel's Graphic Novel Book Club. And this book is available anywhere. From what some of the people have told me, it's a quick read. I have not read it yet. I wanted to be fresh with it before we started the show. And thank you, Gore. Take care, everybody, and make sure to like and subscribe. All of the great people. Ooh, hold on. I will look up his art. Thank you, Bobby, for interacting, and Gore and What Spider Likes, and everyone else. I truly appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.